Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cook. On this week's show, we have several items from the Richmond Municipal Council table from their first regular monthly meeting at the Council Chambers in Arichat since this past November. We're also going to hear from Claire Doyle. She's the new community connector for the Seniors Take Action Coalition. And we'll have more highlights from Richmond District 1 Councillor Sean Sampson's recent open house at Centre La Picasse in Petit de Gras. But we begin with vaccination policies for municipal employees in Richmond County. After several weeks of wrangling behind the scenes and speaking with municipal solicitors, municipal staff, and the general public, councillors were finally able to have a vote on a draft policy for vaccinating municipal employees. However, at the meeting that was held on Monday, March 21st, the same day that most restrictions were lifted with regard to COVID-19 around Nova Scotia, that vaccination policy was defeated 4-0. Warden Amanda Mombourquette didn't participate in the actual vote, but I thought it might be helpful to get some comments from her after the meeting as to what she thought of the unanimous vote to defeat the vaccination policy and where the municipality goes from here in terms of this issue. So here's Warden Mombourquette right now.
Obviously, restrictions are lifting, things are shifting, and that's been the case with this, as a municipal unit trying to respond since day one. The bottom line is councillors felt that, we're in a time and place right now where that policy might not make as much sense as it did even a month or two ago, and so they've voted to not to pass it. But the good thing is that the work is done. The policy is drafted to a level of our satisfaction that should we need it in the future, we can go back to it quickly.
And I know a couple of councillors have brought that up as well, too, the idea that we're out of Omicron, or nearly out of Omicron, but we could be seeing other variants, we could be seeing future lockdowns this summer, fall, or winter. So this saves council a lot of extra work in terms of having a draft policy that can be brought back to the table quickly if need be.
Yeah, for sure. It's a policy that, we are feeling really good about in terms of its structure, but also, recalling that we did get legal advice to ensure that it was, that it was in good working order as well. And so it's baked, it's in the oven, and if we need to take it out, we will.
Another common theme for the COVID-19 pandemic here in Richmond County has been virtual meetings. Municipal Council has held these meetings using virtual apps, and so have council committees. However, it appears that some members of council committees are having trouble logging on to virtual meetings because of poor wireless connections in their particular communities. So council discussed this issue this past Monday at their regular monthly meeting in Arichat, but they weren't able to come up with a common solution. So Warden Amanda Mombourquette is hoping that the municipality has some power to be able to reach out to levels of the provincial government and the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities to try to change the Municipal Government Act to allow for different means of participating in virtual meetings. Here's what the warden had to say after the March 21st council session.
So the Municipal Government Act requires that the members participating in the meeting are able to see and hear each other. And so, our concern with that is that it could potentially eliminate some folks who don't have good internet connectivity. And we do have people serving on committees who have, challenging internet situations. And so they're often only able to join either by phone or by audio only. And so from an accessibility perspective, Councillor Digdon said it well. We're really concerned about that. It's something that I had looked into as well. And taken to, discussed with Municipal Affairs, discussed with Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. We do have some lobbying work I think we need to do there, or to at least make that restriction not as impactful for our maybe if members who don't have great internet. And then there's other things that we could be looking at as a municipality as well to try to mitigate some of those issues. And I don't know if that's going to be providing a space where they could come to, or maybe it's is there a piece of equipment that might be needed, that type of thing. So we'll have to do some homework on that, because our commitment is to try to make sure that there's no accessibility barriers to people who want to participate on our committees. The bottom line is without the policy, without any kind of virtual meeting policy, then we can't have our meetings or committees of council meetings in a virtual format. So we needed to pass that policy. The problem is we don't have the ability to contradict the MGA with it, right? So we have to make sure it aligns, and therefore, that's where we're running into that problem. So it's really, at this point, the policies in place will be able to meet virtually, but we have work to do to make sure that we're in compliance, either by providing supports to committee members or through lobbying efforts to get some changes done at the provincial level.
So while those lobbying efforts are happening, what should those that struggle with internet access, and we know there are quite a few in Richmond County, do in terms of their meeting participation? Should they just pull back or leave the meetings for the time being? What happens now?
Yeah, so the answer to that is absolutely not. We're going to work with them very proactively to make sure that we're in compliance. The bottom line is that we, even with the committees of council that we've had, even since being elected during the state of emergency, we've had members participating that aren't in compliance, and we have proceeded anyway, and frankly, not knowing at the time. Now that we do know, now it's our responsibility to fix it.
We're all aware that this has been a difficult winter for some volunteer fire departments here in Richmond County. We witnessed the recent battle over the executive and the board of directors for the Isle Madame Volunteer Fire Department. And as well, we're hearing of similar concerns emerging from the Lordways Volunteer Fire Department. This issue finally made it to the Richmond Municipal Council table during Council's most recent regular meeting on March 21st. And the issue received a lengthy discussion, and we're going to share that discussion with you right now as a public service. Following the discussion from the March 21st Council meeting, you'll hear some remarks from Warden Amanda Mombourquette on what Council can do in the days and weeks to come. But she's going to kick off the discussion right now with a bit of a rundown of what Council can and can't do in terms of governance issues for volunteer fire departments in Richmond County.
The municipality can adopt any policies for fire and emergency that are necessary and expedient for the provision of emergency services in the municipality. However, at this point, rather than developing policy in a vacuum, without fire departments at the table, and potentially creating something that would add to the pressures of our departments, I'm suggesting that there may be an opportunity to provide resources, and I don't know exactly what that looks like, perhaps through a consultant with some expertise in governance to help departments develop stronger governance based on best practices so that all volunteers involved have a shared understanding of their roles and responsibilities, and that we share that understanding of their roles and responsibilities. It would continue the approach that, I think we've taken for many years, that we tend to be more collaborative than prescriptive in nature. It would also potentially relieve some of the pressures being felt by our volunteer department members. Fire departments are complex organizations to run. You're managing volunteers, your buildings, a fleet of vehicles, all at the same time while putting out fires.
So I do have a question really directed towards the folks who are in the Fire Services Committee. Yes. So has the issue of governance been discussed at any of those meetings? And if so, what did that conversation look like? And because my initial reaction would be certainly that that's something I'd like to see discussed there, because that's the whole purpose of that. And then take a bit of direction from the departments in terms of where they see us providing support right. if they see us needing to do that.
I guess in speaking to the governance side, I was under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were okay with, I guess, the running each department independently. We all have a job to do, and we're all accountable. And I say we're because the fire services, but each fire department is accountable to the county already with the stipulations we have in place in our policies. I understand that, in the past 2 months, there's been some upsets in 2 of the fire departments. However, you have to understand that out of the 10 or 11 that are ran throughout the county of Richmond, this is the first time in probably 30 years that either fire department had an issue. Again, I believe both departments followed proper protocol. Both departments went through their board of directors. Both departments sought possibly legal advice and took whatever measures had to be taken. I don't believe council's involvement would have made any changes or would have had any correction.
Yeah, I would reiterate, I've never heard that come up as a concern at the meetings, like at the fire services. The major issue is funding for several of the departments, and where we haven't really, obviously it's not an easy answer, but where we haven't been able to make significant headway on that, this is the elephant in the room here, that there are departments struggling to survive. And that's been the main area of focus, really, is trying
Of
to
the committee.
come to some kind of conclusion how that could look. As far as the governance structure, I don't believe it's anything can ever recall coming up at the Fire Services Committee meetings.
Okay, so you're not recalling it ever being a discussion, an agenda item or anything?
No.
So I mean, for me, I would agree, like, I do feel like the, you know, we've agreed that the Fire Services Committee is, you know, that we would sort of allow them to work as they were intended to work, right? Is to help us understand better what happens in fire services. And I can appreciate the fact that they've been very focused on the financial piece and all of that. But I think that we do need to ask perhaps that, I understand maybe, Councillor Digdon, are you the chairperson of that committee?
I am correct.
So I mean, would it be appropriate for us to maybe ask for you to add that to the next agenda, just to have that
Oh, definitely.
discussion with the
Yep.
group to say, you know, because I also know that many departments have a very different governance structure, right? So some have boards of directors, and then they have their operating members, and some, they combine those together, and some have lots of policies, and some don't have any. So
Right.
I think having that conversation, and then see what their feeling is about it, and in terms of, is that something that they would like to see, you know, would they like to see, like other things, a bit of a uniform structure to that we could help to coordinate? Because, you know, to the warden's point, perhaps what we need to do is budget for someone to gather all of the policies together and all of the structures together and then work through that. I recall some of that, I think, was discussed in the fire services report, but it's been a bit since
Yeah.
I've looked at that. But I just, if the departments are feeling like it's something they need help with, then I think we should think
Yeah.
about where we're gonna move from there. But if they're not feeling like that, then, you know, I would be hesitant to push something on them that they're not looking for or needing.
I agree, that's definitely something we can bring up at our, on the next agenda for the Fire Services meeting.
When is your, sorry, Councillor Digdon, when is your next Fire Services Committee meeting? Is there one scheduled?
So we'll have to schedule one probably coming up in the next month. We held off because it was virtual and there's too many people, there's too many players, I guess, to try and do a virtual meeting.
Okay.
So it has to be
And I would say specifically, you've got some folks at that table who would have serious internet connectivity challenges.
100%, yeah.
I think where Councillor Melanie Sampson is going is when it comes to the governance part of, you know, I don't want to use the word turmoil, but I guess I'll use the word turmoil when it comes to the departments, right? And for me, I'll go back to my campaign message to the point where what's good for one district is good for Richmond, and what's good for Richmond is good for all districts. And we would have to, if we were going to get involved with the governance, to make sure that everybody's on the same page, then it would have to be something that all departments are happy with, right?
It wouldn't necessarily mean that the governance structure at each department must look the same, but
Right.
it must be based on best practices. And I think the problem with good governance is that you don't know that your policies are
That's right.
not up to snuff until it's too late sometimes.
Right.
And I think we you know,
Yeah.
our volunteers deserve better than that. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's just where my thought was going, but
Yeah.
happy to, you know, refer that to Fire Services Committee.
Yeah, we're
councillors,
happy
if
to
that
bring it
makes
forward.
sense.
Like you alluded to, Councillor Melanie, you know, all departments are, you know, doing things differently. Some have boards, some don't have boards, some
Yeah.
are just, you know, running things themselves and.
Right, and some have members who have experience in governance, who have been very interested and involved in the creation of those pieces.
Right.
And some departments, you know, to your point, Councillor Sampson, is they're just trying to survive. So governance has not been a big deal for them,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And they've perhaps been fortunate that they haven't had issues, that they haven't had policies to back themselves up with, right? So I think, you know, again, I don't feel like it's something that we want to put on their plate. But I think we want to identify whether or not it's something they want to have, you know, they want us to help them prepare or not, or whatever, so.
Yeah, and I agree. Maybe they're sitting in the back row just not asking that question, that they do want help, you know, so
Or
and
they
that's,
don't know that, or they don't know that they want help,
right.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Again, my only other comment would be if some of them can't survive financially and we can't figure out a way for that to happen, none of this is gonna matter to them,
Agreed.
right? As important as this is, and I don't
Yeah.
wanna take that away, I think it's secondary to
Yeah.
some of the departments, especially in my district, that we need to try and work on a system or a solution that will help them,
Yeah,
survive for years to come.
yeah, definitely.
And I believe, are we working on that system over budget deliberations? Is that part of our,
I imagine anything financial that will be through budget
So
deliberations.
nothing really moved forward because we looked into what the situation was in Pictou, and
Yeah.
apparently it sounded as if they may have abandoned what they were going forward with there. So that's as far as we got.
So, that would be good information to bring back to fire services as well, to let them know that that piece of work was done, that research was done, and, see if they have opinions on a potential way forward on that, Yeah, I think that'd be great, and then maybe bring that information back to council, and we can kind of incorporate it into budget as well. I understand that the desire of communities and people to want council to intervene. At the end of the day, that really hasn't been our practice. Our practice has always been to respect the autonomy of the fire departments, to require that financial accountability, because it is, tax-funded dollars, and we do require reporting from them. We've just adopted a payment policy that will support that work as well. But at the end of the day, if they're experiencing conflict within the departments and managing that conflict, the conversation that we had this evening was really about how could we potentially support them. So I think bringing it back to Fire Services Committee is exactly what needs to happen. It was an excellent suggestion by the Deputy Warden to do that. Maybe the Fire Services, Committee will decide that there's something else that's more important that we need to focus our efforts on. Maybe they'll decide that this has risen, as one of the top few, but I'm hopeful that will be a productive discussion about how the county could support, because that needs to be our approach. We've got so many fire departments. We need to be sure that they're feeling well supported by the municipality whenever possible. And I know that that's challenging sometimes because of our fiscal constraints. But on the governance side, maybe there are some additional supports we can offer, but it really will be up to them to decide, how we want to work together to improve things, if things need to be improved.
And quickly, that goes back to the MGA as well, too.
Yes.
That limits what municipalities can do as well.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it's, there's no case law out there that exists really with, pertaining to that particular section of the MGA. So our lawyers had a hard time kind of finding some precedents for us because they didn't really exist. And so the MGA, talks about that municipalities may want to provide fire services, and we take that a step further in Richmond County, and we make sure that we do provide it. That being said, there's really no benefit to us kind of coming in and trying to impose and be very prescriptive related to operational activities, because these organizations are run by volunteers, and we need to respect that. So that's why I think the more collaborative approach is a more appropriate one. I know that will be kind of a tough pill to swallow for some folks, but at the end of the day, it's step one, and of what I think will be a long journey towards improving fire protection.
And now we'd like to introduce you to the new community connector for the Seniors Take Action Coalition. Her name is Claire Doyle. She's been a longtime member of the coalition, and she started this new position just this past February. So we decided to bring her into the Telile studios to talk a bit about what her new position will have her doing with seniors across the county, but also to talk about a petition campaign that the coalition has launched to deal with a plan to hike power rates across Nova Scotia. Here's that interview with Claire Doyle, the new community connector for the Seniors Take Action Coalition, right now. I wanted to begin by asking you, what does a community connector do? What will you be doing in this new post that you're taking for the Seniors Take Action Coalition?
Sure. Well, before I explain what exactly a community connector does, I would like to start by saying that the Community Connector Project is an initiative by Richmond Seniors Take Action Coalition. It was a wellness grant that was received in October 2021 by Straight Richmond, the Community Health Board, and that was during the COVID shutdown, the COVID-19 shutdown. So one of the priorities of the wellness grant was social inclusion. And we all know that the past 2 years with COVID, that social isolation was difficult on all of us, and especially the older adults living, in rural areas like Richmond County. The Coalition is a group of volunteers that came together in 2016 to give voice to all the seniors living in Richmond County. I call them champions because they advocate for issues that are important to the well-being of all seniors living throughout Richmond County. They send letters to officials on the municipal, provincial, and federal level to bring to their attention issues that impact our older adults. They advocate on numerous issues and are presently engaged in that age-friendly community component of the municipal strategic plan that's taking place now throughout Richmond County. So they're busy. They're busy and they do really great work, and I'm so proud to be part of that organization. And the Coalition is made up of the various senior clubs throughout Richmond County. They also work with community organizations, somewhat like the Nova Scotia Health Board and the Nova Scotia Health, I should say, not the board, but the Retired Teachers Association is one of them. The municipality, they have a good relationship with the municipality. Le regroupement des années et des ans de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Richmond County Senior Council, they're one of their working partners. Straight Richmond Housing Matters Coalition that really does a lot of work in affordable housing. And other community members just interested in issues impacting older adults. And so this is where my role as the community connector begins. Now, I started my assignment with the Coalition in mid-February, and I'll be working with them until, this is the last phase of their project, and I'll be working with them until the end of June of this year. And my goal is to reach out and reconnect with the 11 senior clubs. We have 11 senior clubs in Richmond County, amazing. And I'm going to be reaching out to them during, my time. And as well as we're going to be working, again, we're going to be reaching out to our working partners, all of the working partners that I've mentioned, hopefully. We're going to be working with them. And it's simply to open up the lines of communication, to kind of reboot ourselves and kind of get going again, because the 2-year COVID has had an impact with everyone across the board. I mean, we've been, as a community, totally shut down. It's unbelievable, And shut down means a shutdown of communication. We just have not had that. So I think the phase that I'm in this overall project to reboot, recommunicate, and actually meet up with a lot of the presidents and as many seniors as I can. I think all that is important. It's all important for the work that we do as a coalition. So that's where I am right now.
Okay.
And to date, I have already reached out to 11 of the senior clubs. I've reached out to all of their presidents. We've talked. We've kind of upgraded the contact list, because in 2 years there's been changes, and so we've updated the contact list. And I did a little interview with them. I had like a number of questions that I posed to them, and we talked about, where they were at before the COVID shutdown, what happened during the COVID shutdown, and what is their long-term goal? What are their plans for the future? And it was really kind of heartwarming to find out they're resilient. They're planning on moving on and moving upwards. And it's really great. They're talking about they're talking about starting their fish cakes and bean suppers and their music and their cribbage tournaments, their pancake breakfast, their coffee houses, their exercise programs, and it's amazing. We really absolutely need these senior groups in our communities. They're the heart of our community. They really are.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the seniors groups and seniors clubs in Richmond County, because I think it's one of the best kept secrets in the county that some of the most active organizations from a volunteer basis are our seniors clubs. And that
Yes.
stretches from one end of the county to the other. So I'm glad to see that you're reaching out and connecting with them. So looking beyond that, what are some of the short-term goals that you have as the new community connector for the Seniors Take Action Coalition? Now, what are 2 or 3 things that you're looking at in the short term?
Well, in the short term, I see my role as making contact, like we said, with our working groups and community. And I plan to host, this is what I'm doing. I just respectful conversations with all the presidents and their executives as I'm attending their meetings, and also with individuals and other organizations. I plan to make contact with them and kind of use the same process. Because of the shutdown, we haven't really have spoken on any issues. And as a coalition, it's really important for us to keep that conversation going, because we really need to have our pulse on issues and concerns, in that community, in that senior community. So yes. So what I'm going to do is I'll listen. I plan on listening. I plan on sharing information, and then I plan on building an inventory of resources and reconnect then with as many seniors as time permits. I also hope to learn more about what actions the coalition can take to improve the lives of our older adults in Richmond County.
What about long-term goals for your position as the community connector? What are you looking at beyond, say, 6 to 12 months and beyond?
Well, my long-term goals is to gather information that will be relevant to the work of our coalition, and to reestablish and develop an ongoing communication system to disseminate information between the coalition, the senior club members, and our community partners. Okay. And also, I hope to gain a better understanding of the issues and the challenges and the strengths of the older adult population for future planning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Now, you talked about gathering information, and you're also gathering signatures, because I understand the Seniors Take Action Coalition has a petition campaign going concerning recently announced hikes in electricity rates by Nova Scotia Power. They're planning to bring those into effect soon. Can you tell me a bit about the petition campaign?
Sure. Well, that's one of the pressing items of concern right at the moment. So we held a meeting a few weeks ago, and we realized that this power rate increase, a lot of people are talking about it. So the coalition decided that it was important to put a petition together to bring it to the government, because it's such a large increase. And so they plan on increasing, they're planning on doing a power rate increase of 10% over the next 3 years, a 2% storm recovery charge, and a 9.5 guarantee for annual profits, Adam. So Nova Scotia's electricity rate is already almost the highest in the country, in Nova Scotia. So the coalition is absolutely opposed to this 3-year residential rate increase. It is an unreasonable request, and this power rate increase will affect everyone, and seniors in particular that are on fixed incomes are already struggling with the mounting inflation that we see today. Our gas prices are up, our food prices are up, the rent is up, and the everyday costs are up. And this increase, we believe, will pose undue stress to our low and our middle income seniors and their families, and families right across the board. So we urge government to say no to this increase. And the petition is going to be presented to the provincial legislature. We have a short window because the provincial legislature, I believe, is going to be closing down early in April. And so we have a number of sites that we've put the petition out, and we're asking people to sign it. We can't accept electronic names, unfortunately, in a petition, but we do have a number of sites that if people want to take that extra time to go and sign it, we have it throughout Richmond County. And maybe you'll permit me to put these sites on, to put the sites on Telile for people to,
of course.
See.
Yes.
Yeah. I can name them.
If you can name them, go right ahead.
I
yes.
can name them.
Yeah.
I know that I put a display of the petition at St. Joseph's Credit Union in Petit de Gras. And we also have one at the Charles Forest Co-op in Ayrshire. And we have one at the Shamrock Store in Discouse. We have one at the Loosedale Co-op. The Fleur de Lis Senior Club, the president has a petition. And, whenever there's activities going on in the hall, she'll have that petition out. And the Arm of Gold Association in Dundee is the same. The president and the executive has a petition there. The Lordways Jolly Club in Lordways, they have a petition, and they're going to be having activities fairly soon, so they have the petition going. Michelle McPhee at the Kingston Memorial Clinic in Lordways, she has a petition too. There's a petition out at the CNM Video in St. Peter's and at the Farmer's Pantry in St. Peter's. So we have like a fairly large area, and we're kind of hoping people will take the time to sign this petition.
Any word on the initial response to the petition?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes. Yes, there's a lot of response, and I think we're picking up momentum.
We have covered a lot of ground here, Claire, and I appreciate you giving me some time to talk about all of this. Did you have anything else you wanted to add just before we wrap up?
No, I'm sure we'll be back.
It's been a pleasure to have you here, Claire Doyle, to talk about all this. Thank you very much for joining us on Telile 24/7 today.
Thank you.
Claire Doyle is the new community connector for the Seniors Take Action Coalition. Now you're going to hear Claire Doyle's name come up again in this next item for Telile 24/7. It's about an age-friendly grant that was recently approved for Richmond County by the province of Nova Scotia. Warden Amanda Mombourquette outlined how the municipality was successful in receiving this age-friendly grant and what it's going to be used for in the coming weeks and months. Here's Warden Mombourquette to give you the details right now.
Our age-friendly grant has been approved. So I know I've been bringing this back into the council table a number of times over the last couple of months. Just as a reminder, we were selected by Dalhousie to participate in their Acting Collectively research project. The project is focused on aging well in communities. At the last meeting, I mentioned that the project is proceeding and that Michelle McPhee and Claire Doyle would be taking the first round of assessor training. Super happy to report that we have secured $22,371 in grant funding through an Age-Friendly Communities Program grant. The majority of the budget will be used to hire a resource person or persons to conduct assessments with seniors. And we have two options at this stage moving forward, and I would like to get council's feedback on. We could look at directly conducting the work through, our existing municipal structure, and directly contracting someone to do that piece of work. The other option is that we could contract an organization to conduct the work. In the past, we've looked to the Dr. Kingston Memorial Health Center to assist with these types of projects. The project budget for this project allowed for 800 hours of project coordination effort at $25 an hour. I checked in with Sherry and the team there to kind of discuss the opportunity of maybe having them be the contracting agency on this for us. And they felt that they could provide 170 hours of project coordination, which would take care of all of the financial and project management for a total of $4,250. So it would still leave lots and lots of room for the the work to get done, the assessment and all of that. So, my feeling is that this would be beneficial in that it would not place an extra burden on any municipal staff. It would provide the health center with revenue, and it will likely result in the best possible outcomes by hosting this project in close proximity to our senior safety and social inclusion coordinator, who's going to be integrated into the work as well. So, the Sherry at the health center indicated that that would be an acceptable solution, should we choose to go that route. I did not make any commitments, but I did indicate that we would be making a determination on next steps and kind of discussing it this evening.
I think that's a great approach, Madam Warden, with the Dr. Kingston. Like I say, it provides revenue for them, and it's close to home with the senior coalition, with everybody involved with the Dr. Kingston. So I think that's the approach we should take for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone's okay with that?
Yep.
I'd be willing to make a motion to that effect.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. So the motion has been made to, I guess, contract the work for the Acting Collectively project to the Dr. Kingston Memorial Health Center for $4,250, representing 170 hours of project work, financial and project management. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion?
So I just have one question, and
Yeah.
only, I guess, to dot the i's and cross the t's. Do we have to send it out? I mean, I know we're making the motion for the money, but do we have to send it out in some sort of, not an RFP or something, but just, do we have to put it out there first, or are we allowed to pick an organization?
That certainly wouldn't be a problem if council decides that they wanted to go that route, that's fine. We did collaborate with the Kingston Clinic on a grant last year that we applied for and received and allowed them to do the work.
Yeah.
And the documentation that was required after the grant or the program was completed was on them, so they complied as far as I know. I'd have to confirm that with the recreation manager because he was involved with it.
I remembered that precedent, and that's why it kind of came to mind
Yeah.
for this opportunity, so.
Yeah, so we were able to do it there, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 9,400, I believe, somewhere around that amount. So I think we'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, like, do you see anything any flags that we're maybe not seeing? Like, to me, it all sounds wonderful, and I know we've worked with them on projects previously, but I guess I'm just, from an administrative perspective, is there something that we should be thinking about here?
Not on the surface
Okay.
right now. I'm not really sure how the whole project is gonna
Yeah,
play itself out, so.
okay. Yep, okay, thanks.
Question?
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
Now, if you watch Telile 24/7 regularly, or you check out Telile's coverage of Richmond County's municipal council meetings, you might remember that just a few weeks ago, the Straight Richmond Housing Matters Coalition made a presentation to Richmond Council. Celeste Gautel made the presentation on behalf of the coalition, and she asked for Council to consider taking part in setting up a new nonprofit organization that would help the Housing Matters Coalition advance its agenda for affordable housing here in the Straight area. Gautel and her colleagues are looking for Richmond County, the town of Port Hawkesbury, and the province of Nova Scotia to provide funding for their endeavors. Well, it seems like there may be some movement on behalf of Richmond County to at least provide some support for setting up this nonprofit organization and a position that would help to be able to get the coalition's work done. Here's Warden Amanda Mombourquette to explain what Council decided during their March 21st regular meeting. What's your sense on how this is coming together? Richmond is giving its support. Do you get the sense that other municipalities and provincial funding are coming together here too?
Well, it's early days, so the coalition is not a formalized organization, right? And that's been a bonus in many ways because it gives us all kinds of ways to gather people on different advocacy issues, and it's been really effective in that regard. However, there are sometimes funding opportunities and project opportunities that we can't respond to because we don't have a nonprofit established. So that's why the coalition at this point felt let's get the sort of mandate from both the town of Port Hawkesbury and Richmond County Council to look at establishing a regional not-for-profit. Once we have those motions in place, then we'll look at how we could potentially structure this thing, how we might be able to fund it, etc. So it's really early days, but I'm very hopeful that that there'll be some really great opportunities that come from this, because housing continues to be a crisis in our region. There's no other word for it. People are in absolute crisis for not being able to find places to live. We do know that there may be other nonprofits on the island, that kind of address housing issues. It'd be a great opportunity to work with them as well.
Richmond Municipal Council has voted at their latest regular meeting to provide funding to the Village Fitness Community Cooperative in St. Peters. That funding will help the cooperative to set up a new gym facility at the former NSLC location on Grenville Street. That's part of Warden Amanda Mombourquette's District 4. She was one of 4 councillors to provide district funds towards the $10,000 fee, with the rest of the money coming from Richmond's Type 4 General Grant Program. So how does the warden feel about all this council cooperation to be able to help a new fitness centre set up in St. Peters? Here she is following the March 21st regular council meeting to tell us what she thinks.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see. I mean, we saw the same thing with the food bank investments earlier in the year. We've seen the same thing on a couple different projects that have come through for grant requests, and it's really great to see all the councillors kind of rallying together to try to make the most of public investment. And there's no question, what happened in St. Peters with the closure of the private sector gym. This new group is starting from scratch, and so there's a real drive in the community to make sure that there are fitness facilities located within a reasonable driving distance, especially when you consider some of these folks are coming from Johnstown and where like places that it's quite a long drive. So kudos to the volunteers who have pulled together so quickly and formed that cooperative. It's just amazing. I think the work that's happening there, the work that's happening with the boxing club, I mean, it's going great guns. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future with it. But if they can capitalize on all that energy and goodwill, I think we'll have a really sustainable nonprofit that's helping to deliver those kinds of physical activity services in the community.
Quick comment from you on the reformation of that former NSLC building as a real community hub. I mean, not just the fitness center, but also the Eastern Counties Regional Library and the Visitor Information Center possibly relocating there. Your thoughts on this being a very active part of Grenville Street?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, that location is, it's one of the 4 corners that in the center of the community. And, I certainly was concerned, when you see across the road, the former Irving parking lot is still very much gravel. We've tried on a number of, with a number of different activities to activate that a little bit, to have that other, cornerstone in our community be vacant. It's just, it was just not acceptable because St. Peters has such a vibrant downtown core. It's just, for a community of its size, it's just phenomenal. So it's a really exciting initiative, and kudos to the Village Commission for taking leadership with the building. And, I'll be looking forward to finding new ways that we as a municipality can support them as well, because it is really all about driving more economic growth into our communities. And driving more, social inclusion and that type of thing into our community to make sure that it stays a vibrant downtown.
If you watched last week's edition of Telile 24/7, you might remember that we featured several minutes of footage from an open house held at Centre La Picasse in Petit de Gras by District 1 Councillor Sean Sampson. Well, we have a little bit more from Sean Sampson's year in review, so we're going to share right now a segment that talks a bit about road issues during the winter and spring and summer months, but also we're going to talk a little bit about grant applications that are available to Richmond County residents to get discounts on their water and sewer rates. Here's District 1 Councillor Sean Sampson to tell us more.
Our county is faced with an aging population that choose to stay in their home for as long as they possibly can, depending, of course, on their health and their financial obligations and their financial status when it comes to their ability to maintain their home. Recognizing the fact that there is a low-income housing shortage in our province and in our county, there are many grants and financial assistance available to residents that need and want to apply for them. These grants are for such things as home repair, along with home energy and home heating assistance. The home repair application covers structural, such as roofs, doors, and windows, and it also can include heating, electrical, and plumbing, as it's all dependent on the applicant's needs. It's simply a matter of identifying the immediate want and need on the application form. These types of grants and assistance are available through Housing Nova Scotia. These forms are called home repair application, and for those ever in need, I have copies available to you. I have worked with numerous residents this past year, and although the process takes time, it is there to help our numerous residents to stay, maintain, and live in their homes. Aside from these available grants, there are also financial assistance programs, such as the home heating assistance of $200 rebate, COVID relief fund of $400, and the Nova Scotia Seniors Care Grant, which provides eligible residents with $500 per household for things such as snow removal and lawn care. The forms and information on these programs are easily accessible for most, but for the residents of District 1 that cannot access them, please reach out to me and I will gladly provide you with those forms. In addition to these government-funded programs and grants, our municipality also has a wastewater management project in place for the residents in our county that may look at installing a new on-site septic system. This has been a great project and many residents have taken advantage and now have a new septic system at a fraction of the cost. Residents interested in applying for this project can access the form in question on our municipality's website. But if you go under the Services tab and you go on to On-Site Septic, you will find that form. And if you can't, please reach out and I will get you one. Since this document was put together, I think the deadline might have been or is going to be the end of March for people to apply for this on-site septic. So if any residents in District 1 or in Richmond County are looking for a new on-site septic system and want to apply, I would get that form filled out as soon as you can, because I am sure there's a waiting list already on our site. So over the past year, I've received numerous calls when it comes to the maintenance of our roads. These calls were a combination of secondary roads being cleared during the winter months to the brush cutting needed in the springtime to improve the safety of our traveling public. As we are all aware, the time frame for road maintenance is issued and followed by the province, where our 100 series highways are cleared 8 hours after the snow stops. Secondary roads, 12 hours after the snow stops. And local paved roads and most subdivisions, residential streets, and gravel roads, 24 hours after the snow stops. To find this information, you can type in, "When will my road get plowed?" And that information is on the website. Having said that, with severe snowstorms comes the concern of residents living on secondary roads, that an emergency can occur on any road at any given time. Looking at the spring and summer season, there are always numerous concerns for the need for brush cutting, where brushes are causing some very dangerous blind spots and making for some very dangerous situations when pulling out into the flow of traffic whether it's at a stop sign or pulling out of your own driveway. These are just a few examples, but when it comes to these concerns, along with the reporting of potholes, shoulder work, or missing or down signs, please call 902-625-2540 to report your concern. Your information will be taken, and you should be given a ticket number for your reference. You should keep a record of this ticket number in order for you to have, if ever you need to follow up on the same incident or the same concern. You then simply have to give your ticket number to refer your initial concern. So again, yeah, when it comes to road concerns, this year especially, I've had calls from Alderney Point, and I've had calls from residents from Little Lance asking me, Sean, did something change with the way our roads are clear? Is there a new strategy when it comes to plowing our roads? And when I made a call, I was told that during severe weather or storms, that the goal is to keep Highway 206 and Highway 320 open and clear. Again, that doesn't help the people from the Point or the people from Little Lance, and it's a struggle for them to get to work, or it'll be a struggle for someone to get to someone in an emergency. But my understanding is that in severe weather, to try to keep up with the falling snow or freezing rain or cold temperatures, is that Highway 206 goes to the end of Boudreau, which is towards the Eco Trail, and then back out to Louisdale. And Highway 320 is the schools all the way around to Arishat and back to Louisdale. So that is the goal in severe weather, to keep those two highways clear. So again, people have to struggle to get from the Point or from the Lance to the credit union. Once they get to the credit union or the Highway 206 at the church in Perryville, that's where they see a difference in road maintenance. And so I just wanted to pass that along, that is the concern or the answer I got. The goal is to keep Highway 206 and 320 as clear and as maintained as possible.
Now, as I've mentioned, part of the reason that Councillor Sean Sampson was holding this open house in Petit de Gras was to share with local residents a year in review wrap-up of his first 16 months as Municipal Councillor for District 1. So here are some of the highlights that Sampson had to share, some of the things we can expect looking ahead in the next year of Richmond Municipal Council, but also some final thoughts and some words of encouragement to District 1 residents and to those around Richmond County. Take a listen.
As a follow-up to our campaign, we reinstated the question period in order to provide the transparency and accountability residents were looking for. Our team's willingness to work together resulted in a show of equality when it came to the yearly funding of our local food banks. Our county and the town of Port Hawkesbury agreed on a new 10-year deal to provide fire protection to the Point Upper area. Our council team worked diligently with staff to approve our first budget, resulting in a 1-cent tax increase to our residents for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. With recommendations from staff, our council team agreed upon a single flat sewer rate that would see an increase in revenue to help build a reserve fund needed for future infrastructure projects. A settlement hearing held on November 1st of 2021 resulted in a settlement agreement between our county and a former employee. In the end, the agreement statement of facts stated that both parties were satisfied with the outcome, and it was stated that the former employee was terminated with no just cause. We ratified a new agreement with unionized employees and approved its first collective bargaining agreement with Local 161 of the NSGEU. This agreement should bring financial and job security to our staff, while at a very minimal cost to our taxpayers. Looking ahead, continue working with staff to revamp our county's bylaws and policies. Continue working with staff on our 5-year capital plan, which will see us have open discussions and recommendations needed to build our reserve fund to help follow through on our future important infrastructure projects. Continue working with Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health when working on investments needed for healthcare recruitment in our area. We also need to work together on the retention of these healthcare professionals. Continue our work with community partners and the province to find creative housing solutions for our area. Whether through technology, public consultation, or in-person visits with our residents, we will begin engaging residents when it comes to our new strategic plan. Continue attending meetings and working with all our different committees and groups that work very hard to help improve and shape the future of our county. Continue to recognize and work with our seniors when it comes to the government-funded grants that are available to them, when it comes to helping them stay in and maintain their homes. Continue our presence in the community, whether it's a show of respect, a show of support, rallying behind a cause, or lending a helping hand to a community event. We need to continue to support the great people and groups that support and build our county. In conclusion, this past year has seen our council team come together and work collaboratively in order to move our county in the best possible direction when looking to the future. Many residents have said our council team has been left holding the bag when it comes to the decisions we have to make to invest in our county and its aging infrastructure. With the continuous rise in inflation and the property assessments also increasing, our goal and vision for the future is to stay the course and continue to work together with staff to make the sacrifices and investments needed to meet our future financial obligations at a pace that will not see us drop the bag. To date, the decisions made enable us to slowly put the bag down and allow us to gradually make the investments needed to improve and replace our infrastructure, while keeping the financial burden to our taxpayers as low as we possibly can. Slow and steady will win the race. So in closing, this is my sincere sentiments for all the residents of Richmond County. During the campaign, I spoke of my biggest accomplishments and what I cherish most in my life. Without question, I am most proud and thankful for my family and the fact that I was raised by a great family in a great community. And I want the same for my 2 sons and their future families. Our county and communities exemplify the word togetherness. We grieve together, we celebrate together, and we come together to support local people, groups, businesses, and causes that are dear to our heart and our community. If there was ever a time in our lives where we needed to come together to support each other, the last 2 years have been that time. Let's respectfully continue to do everything we can to help each other stay safe and stay healthy. To quote country music singer Luke Combs and a verse from a song he wrote in reference to the COVID-19 pandemic and the last 2 years, there will be light after dark, someday when we aren't 6 feet apart. God bless you all, and God bless Richmond County.
And there you have it, folks. That wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. Thank you for tuning in, and a big thank you to my interview guest this week, Claire Doyle of the Seniors Take Action Coalition. And big thanks to my colleagues here at Telile 24/7, Nick Boudreau, Becky Bourinot, and Cody Pardy for their assistance on the studio work here for this week's edition of Telile 24/7, as well as the filming and formatting of the footage from Richmond Municipal Council. If you have any thoughts about what you've seen over the past hour, or just some suggestions for future editions of Telile 24/7, feel free to contact me personally or contact Telile at the station here in Arishat. And don't forget to follow Telile Community Television on social media. For now, I'm Adam Cook. Thanks once again for tuning in to Telile 24/7. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a brand new show. Bye for now.